When Alex came back from his business trip, he was looking forward to the comfort of home and the embrace of his wife, Melissa. After weeks away, he felt he deserved the peace and quiet. But when he opened the bedroom door, it felt like time stopped. There, in the bed he knew so well, Melissa was tangled in the arms of another man. The pain of betrayal hit deeper than he ever thought possible. But the real shock came days later, when Alex learned this wasn't just a fling, it was the result of a cold, calculated plan. Melissa and her lover had been playing him for years, using his love and trust as mere pawns in their twisted game. He realized his marriage had been a charade, a carefully orchestrated lie. In his darkest moment, Alex made a decision: he wouldn't be a victim, but the executor of a relentless revenge. Every step he took was meticulously planned to destroy them both. They had chosen the wrong man to betray. Alex Romero was a man of strong principles, known for his integrity both in his personal life and his business. At 40, he had built a respected career in the tech industry, expanding the small startup he inherited from his family into a thriving company. He lived in a spacious colonial-style house in the suburbs of Austin, Texas, surrounded by meticulously cared-for gardens. His wife, Melissa, and he had created a life that, to anyone looking in, seemed perfect. Melissa, 36, was the epitome of elegance and sophistication. With striking beauty, long dark hair, and piercing blue eyes, she had a presence that drew attention at every social event. She was a regular at charity galas and high society parties, known for her charm and for being the life of any gathering. Married to Alex for over 10 years, she was seen as the ideal wife, always supporting her husband's initiatives and projects. Their relationship, at least on the surface, seemed like a modern-day fairy tale. Alex, a reserved and dedicated man, always showed deep admiration for Melissa, and many said he was the kind of husband any woman would dream of. Their friends considered them a model couple, and their active social life reinforced this image of perfection. They frequented upscale restaurants, traveled the world, and hosted memorable dinners at their home. But not everything that glitters is gold. Behind this facade of happiness, something was amiss. Alex, in his dedication to work, often spent long stretches away, leaving Melissa with plenty of time to herself. While he thought she was busy managing the household, the reality was that she often felt bored and lonely. The spacious house, once the scene of happy moments, had become a gilded cage for Melissa. Though Alex was a loving husband, he underestimated Melissa's emotional needs. She craved more than luxury, she longed for passion, adventure, something that made her feel alive. Gradually, the glow of their marriage began to fade for her, turning into nothing more than a monotonous routine. The small gestures of affection that Alex believed were enough failed to fill the growing void in Melissa's heart. This emptiness led her to seek comfort outside the home, in company Alex would never have suspected. In the heart of Austin, life moved with a vibrant rhythm, and it was on one of those busy nights that Melissa met Nathan. He was everything Alex was not: young, charming, and with an air of mystery that captivated her from the first glance. Nathan was an up-and-coming entrepreneur, the owner of a small art gallery where local and international artists showcased their work. He was passionate about what he did, and his energy seemed to infect everyone around him, especially Melissa. Their meeting started off discreetly, almost by accident. A coffee here, an art show there. But over time, they became more frequent and more intimate. Nathan, sensing the emptiness she felt, wasted no time offering her what she craved: attention, adventure, and, most importantly, the feeling of being desired. Melissa, in her search for something to reignite the spark within her, threw herself into this new romance with a passion that surprised even herself. Meanwhile, Alex continued with his routine, oblivious to what was happening. He trusted Melissa completely, confident that the love between them was unbreakable. He spent hours at the office, in endless meetings, or traveling to ensure the success of his business. The few times he noticed something different about Melissa's behavior, he chalked it up to stress or minor issues, never imagining the storm brewing right under his nose. The home they shared, once a symbol of comfort and security, now housed secrets. Melissa, once the perfect wife, began to distance herself from Alex in subtle, almost imperceptible ways. Small signs of dissatisfaction, a coldness in her interactions, and a growing independence in her daily activities. Alex, however, was blind to these changes. He was wrapped up in his bubble of confidence, believing that providing a life of luxury and stability was enough to fulfill his role as a husband. Austin, with its lively streets and vibrant nightlife, provided the perfect backdrop for Melissa and Nathan's clandestine meetings. The warm climate and rich culture of the city only fueled their passion. They frequented hidden bars, exclusive restaurants, and, eventually, began meeting at Alex's own home, taking advantage of the times he was away. What started as a dangerous affair for Melissa quickly became something deeper. She began to question whether she truly loved Alex or if she had simply settled into a life she had never truly chosen. Nathan was more than willing to explore Melissa's feelings. He saw in her not just a disillusioned woman, but also an opportunity. He knew he was playing with fire, but the thrill of being with Melissa, a woman who had everything in the eyes of others, was irresistible. Moreover, the fact that she was married to a powerful man like Alex only made the situation more exciting for Nathan. As the days passed, the web of lies and deceit grew thicker. Melissa lived a double life, torn between the security and comfort Alex provided and the fiery passion she felt for Nathan. This duality consumed her, yet at the same time made her feel more alive than ever. Every moment with Nathan was like an escape from an invisible prison, allowing her to live a reality she had always wanted but never had the courage to seek. The marriage that had once been seen as a fairy tale by society was now just a facade, an empty shell hiding a dark truth. Alex continued to believe his life was perfect, but little did he know that he was about to fall into an abyss from which there would be no escape. Melissa, on the other hand, became more deeply involved in her new life, unaware that she was digging her own grave. Nathan, fully aware of the danger, kept taking risks, as the pleasure of being with Melissa outweighed the fear of consequences. And so, the story of these three characters began to intertwine in a plot that could only end in tragedy. Alex, trusting blindly in the woman he loved, continued on his path, unaware that the ground was about to crumble beneath him. Melissa, deceived by the passion and excitement of living something forbidden, moved closer and closer to the point of no return. And Nathan, the catalyst of it all, became an increasingly indispensable part of this dangerous game, unaware that the revenge about to come would be as ruthless as the betrayal they had committed. The stage was set, the pieces in place, and the clock of destruction began to tick. Austin, with its beauty and hidden dangers, would bear witness to a tale of love, betrayal, and revenge that would leave deep scars on everyone involved. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Alex remained immersed in his routine, completely oblivious to the turmoil unfolding in his own home. His trust in Melissa was unshakable, and even though she grew more distant, he attributed it to the stresses of modern life, never imagining that the truth was much darker. Melissa, on the other hand, began to feel suffocated by the duality of her life. Conflicting emotions consumed her. The comfort and security of her life with Alex were in constant conflict with the thrill and passion she felt for Nathan. The lie she lived with Alex, once manageable, now weighed on her shoulders like an anchor. Every encounter with Nathan took her to a world where she could be free, but the freedom she craved came at a high price. Nathan, ever the opportunist, noticed Melissa's internal struggle. He knew he couldn't rush things, but he also felt the need to secure her loyalty. One night, while they were together in a hidden downtown loft he kept, Nathan made a suggestion that would change the course of everything. "Let's leave it all behind, Melissa. We could run away and start fresh together." Alex would never see it coming. Melissa, who had always believed she was in control, found herself at a crossroads. Running away with Nathan meant abandoning the comfortable life Alex had provided, but it also meant escaping the sham she was living. At the same time, the idea of destroying Alex, the man who trusted her so completely, began to take root in her mind. She knew that to move forward, she needed to make a drastic decision. Meanwhile, Alex, ever more consumed by his work, began to notice small changes around him. Unanswered emails, missed calls, and meetings Melissa used to attend but now neglected. He tried to ignore the signs, convinced that everything was under control. However, the seed of doubt began to grow, slowly but steadily. Alex, an experienced businessman, knew that ignoring small details could lead to big problems. It was during one of his business trips that Alex received an unexpected phone call. It was David, his lawyer and lifelong friend. "Alex, we need to talk as soon as you get back. It's urgent." David's voice was tense, something Alex rarely heard. He tried to press him for details, but David was evasive, insisting they discuss it in person. Alex returned to Austin earlier than planned, anxious to find out what was so important. When he arrived at David's office, he was met with a serious expression. "Alex, first of all, I need you to stay calm. What I'm about to show you is something you need to see with your own eyes." David then handed Alex a thick envelope containing a series of photographs and documents. With trembling hands, Alex began to sift through the contents. The photos showed Melissa and Nathan together in various places, restaurants, bars, and most devastatingly, in Alex's own home. Each image was a stab to the heart, but the worst was yet to come. At the bottom of the envelope was a handwritten letter from Melissa. In the letter, she expressed her contempt for Alex and revealed that their marriage had always been a sham, a carefully planned scheme by her and Nathan to exploit his wealth and status. Melissa's words were cold, cruel, as if the woman Alex had loved and trusted never really existed. The pain gave way to a seething anger within Alex. He felt humiliated, betrayed in a way he never thought possible. But rather than succumbing to despair, something inside him changed. He would not be the victim of this story. Alex decided that if Melissa and Nathan had played with his trust, he would play with their lives. In the days that followed, Alex kept up the appearance of a calm and composed man. He continued to act normally, attending social events and maintaining his business routine. But behind his calm exterior, a plan for revenge was taking shape. Alex was a meticulous man, and if Melissa and Nathan thought he would be easy to deceive, they were about to find out just how wrong they were. Alex began digging into Nathan's life, using every resource at his disposal. He discovered that Nathan had a series of debts and was involved in shady business deals. With this information, Alex saw the perfect opportunity to manipulate his wife's lover. He began quietly undermining Nathan's finances and connections, all without Nathan ever realizing who was behind it. Melissa, for her part, noticed a subtle change in Alex but couldn't quite put her finger on it. He seemed more attentive than usual, as if he were trying to win her back. This left her confused and, at the same time, suspicious. Did Alex know something? Melissa couldn't let her plan fall apart. She needed to keep up appearances and, above all, ensure that Alex didn't suspect a thing. The couple continued their life of pretense, but now there was a palpable tension in the air. Alex knew he had to be patient, that his revenge required time and precision. He wanted Melissa and Nathan to experience the same desperation and pain he had felt. And the more he thought about it, the clearer his plan became. Melissa's nights with Nathan became less frequent, not for lack of desire, but out of growing concern that Alex might find out. Nathan, too, began to feel the pressure. His business was falling apart, and he couldn't understand why. The debts that once seemed manageable were now choking him. He started losing key clients, and his bank accounts were frozen due to sudden investigations. Nathan, who had always prided himself on being in control, began to realize he was losing ground. But what he didn't know was that Alex was behind every move. Every loss, every financial hit, was carefully orchestrated by Alex, who savored each moment of Nathan's downfall. Melissa, unaware of her husband's actions, began to notice the change in Nathan. He was more anxious, more nervous, and began asking that they be more discreet. This irritated her, as she was used to getting what she wanted, when she wanted it. And so, the tension built, like a storm about to break. Alex knew the moment of final confrontation was approaching. He watched, waited, and with each passing day, his resolve grew stronger. He didn't just want Melissa and Nathan to pay for their betrayal, he wanted them to suffer. He wanted them to know they had crossed the wrong man. The days that followed were a game of patience and manipulation. Alex continued to move in the shadows, setting the stage for Melissa and Nathan's downfall. He knew the right moment was near, and when it came, he would be ready to make them pay for every lie, every deceit, and every moment of pain they had caused him. Alex's revenge wouldn't be swift, but it would be devastating. And when the time finally came, there would be no escape for them. Finally, the day arrived. Alex, ever meticulous in his plans, had calculated every detail. The house, now a place of lies and betrayal, would be the stage for Melissa and Nathan's final fall. It was a weekend like any other, at least on the surface. Alex kept up appearances, getting up early, having coffee with Melissa, and heading out to a business meeting. Before leaving, he kissed her on the forehead, as he always did, but this time a chill ran down his spine. There was no love in the gesture, only the coldness of knowing the storm was about to break. Melissa, thinking Alex would be out for another long day, contacted Nathan. "The house is free. Come over, we need to talk," she said, her voice mixing urgency and anxiety. She knew Nathan was going through a tough time, and it worried her. She also sensed that Alex was more attentive, somehow more present, which made her nervous. But what Melissa didn't know was that at that moment, Alex was watching everything from a hidden location, using a system of cameras he had discreetly installed weeks before. Nathan arrived shortly after, his face tense and worried. "We need to be quick, Melissa. I don't know how much longer I can keep this under wraps," he said, referring to the financial problems and suspicions that were starting to close in on him. "Alex is always one step ahead of me. It's like he knows everything, but I don't know how." Melissa tried to calm him. "We'll find a way out, Nathan. Maybe it's time to put the plan we talked about into action. Run away, leave it all behind." But as she spoke, a growing unease took hold of her. Something was wrong, but she couldn't pinpoint it. While Nathan and Melissa discussed their next steps, Alex, across town, received a notification on his phone. He opened the app that controlled the house's cameras and watched the scene unfold in his bedroom. Seeing them together again filled his chest with a mixture of hatred and satisfaction. They were about to fall into the trap he had so carefully set. Alex had prepared a special surprise for the pair. He had manipulated Nathan's finances to the point where he was now on the brink of bankruptcy. Nathan's house was mortgaged, his accounts frozen, and his most important clients had mysteriously vanished. With each move, Nathan sank deeper into debt, and the noose tightened rapidly. Alex had timed everything so that this weekend, Nathan's situation would reach the point of no return. As he watched the couple, Alex sent Melissa a message from an unknown number. "I know what you're doing," the message read. When Melissa saw the message, she turned pale. "What's wrong?" Nathan asked, noticing her expression. "Nothing, just a strange text," she replied, trying to hide it, but her nervousness was evident. Alex knew Melissa was beginning to feel cornered, and that was part of the plan. He wanted her to feel the weight of the choices she had made. He wanted her to know she was being watched, that her betrayal would not go unpunished. He wanted her to despair, but more than that, he wanted her to see Nathan crumble before her eyes. The day dragged on, and the tension in the house grew thicker by the minute. Melissa and Nathan spent the afternoon discussing their options, unaware that every word, every gesture, was being monitored. Alex, meanwhile, was preparing for the final act of his revenge. He returned home late in the afternoon, quietly slipping in through the back door that led to his office. He knew that Melissa and Nathan would be too preoccupied with their worries to notice his presence. As he prepared to confront them, Alex took out a small key he had kept for years. It was the key to a safe in his study, where he kept important documents and, now, irrefutable evidence of Melissa's betrayal. He wanted the moment of revelation to be devastating, for Melissa to understand that he had known the truth far longer than she could have ever imagined. With the key in hand, Alex climbed the stairs slowly, feeling each step beneath his feet as if it were the prelude to something inevitable. He reached the hallway and paused outside the bedroom door, where the murmur of Melissa and Nathan's voices could be heard. Alex opened the door slowly, letting it creak deliberately so the sound would alert them both. Melissa and Nathan stopped talking and turned around at the same time, their expressions of shock exactly what Alex had anticipated. "Alex, what are you doing here?" Melissa tried to sound casual, but her voice trembled slightly. Nathan stood up, visibly uncomfortable, trying to maintain his composure. Alex took a few steps into the room, looking at them both with a terrifying calm. "It was time to come home, don't you think, Melissa?" he said, his words carrying a meaning she couldn't yet fully grasp. The silence that followed was crushing. Melissa exchanged a glance with Nathan, and it was then that Alex approached the safe, turning the key with a click that echoed through the room. He opened the small metal door and pulled out a thick envelope. "I think it's time to lay everything on the table, don't you?" Melissa felt her heart race as she watched Alex throw the envelope onto the bed. Nathan, sensing imminent danger, tried to intervene. "Alex, what do you think you're doing? There's no need for more complications." But before he could finish his sentence, Alex cut him off, his voice sharp as a blade. "Complications?" Alex repeated, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "I think we have enough complications here. And you, Nathan, should know that better than anyone." Melissa, standing next to Nathan, felt her legs tremble. She picked up the envelope with trembling hands and slowly opened it. Inside, she found the same photos Alex had seen, along with copies of the letter she had written to Nathan. Every word, every image, was there, laid bare. Melissa looked at Alex, her eyes pleading for an explanation. "Alex, please, you have to understand. I didn't want it to be this way." Alex crossed his arms, his expression impassive. "Understand? Oh, I understand perfectly, Melissa. I understand that all this time, you thought you were fooling me, that I was just a fool blinded by the love I had for you. But let me tell you a secret, Melissa, I knew from the start." Alex's words hit Melissa like a devastating blow. She felt the ground open up beneath her. "From the start? What do you mean?" Alex took a step closer, his voice lowering to a dangerous whisper. "From the start, Melissa. From the moment you walked down that aisle with me, I knew something was wrong. But I ignored it because I wanted to believe that the love I had for you was enough to hold our marriage together. I knew. I knew about your meetings with Nathan, I knew every lie you told, every ridiculous excuse you made up." Melissa felt herself crumbling inside. Nathan, beside her, remained silent, unable to process what he had just heard. "Then why didn't you do anything? Why didn't you confront me sooner?" Alex let out a cold, almost emotionless laugh. "Because, Melissa, I wanted you to believe you were winning. I wanted you to think you had control, that you had everything you wanted. And now, when you finally think you're about to have it all, I show up to destroy everything you two have built." Nathan took a step forward, trying to regain some control over the situation. "Alex, this doesn't have to end this way. We can come to an agreement. We can resolve this in a civilized way." Alex stared at him, his eyes cold and unyielding. "Do you really believe that, Nathan? Do you think that after everything you've done, I'm just going to let you walk away?" He took another step forward, standing directly in front of Nathan. "You messed with the wrong man. And now, you're both going to pay for every drop of blood you bled from my heart." The weight of Alex's words hit Nathan like a final blow. He tried to speak, but his voice broke. Melissa, on the other hand, felt a wave of desperation wash over her. "Alex, you don't have to do this. We can start over, we can make things right. Alex looked at her for a moment, his eyes darkening. Make things right? No, Melissa. There's nothing to make right. What you've done can't be undone. But what I can do is make sure you and Nathan feel the same despair I felt. He stepped away for a moment, pulled out his phone, and dialed a number he had prepared for this occasion. Yes, now, he said briefly before hanging up and turning his attention back to them. Melissa and Nathan exchanged confused looks, but the answer came quickly. Minutes later, the sound of sirens pierced the air around the house. Nathan, realizing what was about to happen, took a step back as panic began to set in. What did you do, Alex? Alex smiled coldly. Did you really think you could get away with it? That you could betray me, steal my money, and destroy my life without paying the price? I've been collecting evidence for a long time, Nathan. Evidence of your fraud, your illegal deals. And today, you're going to reap what you've sown. Nathan tried to run for the door, but Alex had already locked everything. You're not going anywhere, Nathan. Neither are you, Melissa. He turned to her, his eyes filled with controlled fury. And you, Melissa, are going to see what it really means to lose everything. Melissa felt the tears welling up. She had never seen Alex like this, so determined, so ruthless. Alex, please don't do this. But he was no longer listening. The door was kicked in, and a team of police officers stormed into the house, surrounding Nathan. He struggled, tried to argue, but it was futile. They had all they needed to take him away. As they dragged Nathan out, his voice echoed down the hallway, pleading, trying to explain, but Alex didn't even blink. Melissa, now in complete shock, tried to run to Alex, but she was stopped by one of the officers. This can't be happening. Alex, please. But he remained unmoved, watching as Nathan was taken away in handcuffs. Melissa, desperate, dropped to her knees in front of Alex, tears streaming down her face. I'm sorry, Alex. I was wrong, but please don't do this. Alex looked at her for a long moment, his eyes reflecting nothing but a cold emptiness. You had your chance, Melissa. And you wasted it all. He turned and walked away, leaving her there, kneeling on the floor, as the officers took her away too. As they were led out, Alex finally allowed himself a small emotion. It wasn't the satisfaction he thought he would feel, but rather a deep sadness, almost as if he were mourning something lost. He knew his life would never be the same, but he had no regrets. He had done what needed to be done. The house, now silent, seemed a reflection of Alex's soul, empty, cold, devoid of any trace of the love he once thought he had. He walked through the halls, passing by memories of a past that now seemed so distant. When he reached the living room, he sat down in the brown leather armchair, the one that had always been his place of reflection. Staring at the darkened fireplace, Alex took a deep breath. He had won, he had destroyed those who betrayed him, but at what cost? He knew that from this moment on, life would take a different course. The weight of loneliness pressed down on him, but he knew there was no turning back. He had sacrificed his heart for the justice he believed he deserved. Deep down, Alex knew that revenge hadn't brought him the peace he had longed for. The victory left a bitter taste, as if by defeating his enemies, he had also destroyed a part of himself. Melissa and Nathan's betrayal had been punished, but all that remained now was a silent void. Alex closed his eyes for a moment, trying to push away the thoughts that tormented him. He knew he had to move on, but how? The future seemed uncertain, and the shadows of the past would haunt him forever. He rose from the chair and walked to the window, looking out over the city that stretched out before him. The lights twinkled in the darkness, each one representing a life, a story, a destiny. Alex knew that out there, the world carried on, indifferent to his suffering. And as he watched the flickering lights, a new determination began to grow within him. Perhaps there was a way to start over, to find a new purpose. But for now, all he could do was wait for time, his last ally, to heal the wounds opened by his revenge. Alex had fulfilled his promise, but the cost had been too high, and now, alone in his house, he prepared to face whatever came next. Alex stood still by the window, watching the city stretch out under the night's darkness. The silence inside the house was almost palpable, as if the walls that had once witnessed happy times were now suffocating under the weight of recent events. The echo of the sirens that had taken Melissa and Nathan away still resonated in his mind, a dark reminder that the revenge had been carried out, but at what cost? He knew what he had done was necessary, that betrayal deserved to be punished, but now, as reality set in, the true extent of his actions began to unfold. Alex had destroyed the lives of two people who, despite everything, had once meant something to him. And though he didn't regret it, he couldn't deny the growing sense of emptiness in his chest. The clock on the wall ticked away the hours, but Alex didn't move. Every passing second seemed to chip away at his soul, leaving him more exhausted, more drained. He knew he would have to deal with the consequences of his actions, that the loneliness now surrounding him was a price he was destined to pay. But that didn't trouble him. What really disturbed him was the realization that, in his quest for revenge, he had lost something fundamental about himself. That night, Alex didn't sleep. He spent hours wandering through the house like a ghost searching for something undefined. The memories of his marriage to Melissa, the shared laughs, the tender moments, all now seemed distant, as if they belonged to another life. A life he had buried under the weight of his own anger and desire for justice. He stopped at the doorway of their bedroom, a place where he had once felt safe but was now just an empty space, devoid of meaning. The bed was untouched, the sheets perfectly made, but Alex knew there would be no peace there. He turned away, unable to face the room, and headed for his office. Sitting at his desk, Alex began mentally reviewing everything that had happened. Every move, every decision, every word spoken. It was all etched into his memory, but now, as he relived those moments, he felt a strange sense of detachment, as if he were watching someone else's story. He opened a drawer and pulled out an old notebook. Flipping through the pages, he found old reflections, business plans, dreams he had once had. Alex realized that for so long, his life had revolved around Melissa and his work. Now, both had been destroyed, and he was left staring into the abyss. But at the same time, he felt a strange sense of relief. The lie had been exposed, the cycle of betrayal and deceit was over. And though Alex knew that life wouldn't be easy from this point on, he also recognized that he was free from a burden that had weighed on him for so long. The dawn crept in slowly, and Alex began to chart a plan for the future. He knew he would have to start over, rebuild his life from the ashes left by his revenge. But above all, he knew he needed to find a new purpose, something to drive him forward. As the sun began to rise over the horizon, Alex made a decision. He would leave Austin, at least for a while. He needed distance, a new environment where he could reconnect with himself, where he could rediscover who he was beyond the betrayed and vengeful man. He would leave behind everything that reminded him of Melissa, of Nathan, of his old life. Alex stood up, feeling more determined than he had in a long time. He knew the road ahead would be tough, that the scars of the past wouldn't fade easily, but he also knew he couldn't stay trapped in that house, in those memories. He had to move forward, he had to find a new reason to live. With this resolve, Alex began packing his things, just the essentials. The rest he would leave behind, a symbol of his detachment from a life that no longer belonged to him. He was determined to start fresh, to find a new beginning somewhere he could write a new story, a story untainted by betrayal and pain. And so, as the first rays of the morning sun lit up the sky, Alex set out to leave it all behind. The future was still uncertain, but he knew that, somehow, he would find his way forward. After all, life always finds a way to continue, even when everything seems lost. Alex boarded an early flight that morning, leaving behind the house that now only harbored the ghosts of a past he wanted to forget. His decision to leave had been swift and final, he no longer wanted to be haunted by the echoes of a life that no longer existed. Behind him lay Austin, with all the memories of betrayal, revenge, and pain. His destination was a place where he could rebuild his life, where he might find some form of inner peace, even if only temporarily. As the plane climbed higher, Alex closed his eyes, trying to shake off the thoughts that tormented him. But even from a distance, the consequences of his actions continued to unfold relentlessly. He had destroyed what Melissa and Nathan had built, but the destruction he left behind was only beginning to reveal its true impact. Melissa, now alone in a cold, austere cell, was confronted with the reality she had ignored for so long. The weight of betrayal, manipulation, and the collapse of her plan fell on her like an inescapable tide. The concrete walls that surrounded her were the materialization of her choices. Her fate was sealed, the justice of both Alex and the legal system had prevailed. She had nothing left, no one to turn to. Her life, once filled with luxury and power, had been reduced to ruins. But the greatest punishment was not the cell she was in, it was knowing that she had built that prison herself, brick by brick, with her lies and deceit. Nathan, on the other hand, faced a different kind of hell. He had always prided himself on his cunning, on his ability to manipulate situations to his advantage, but now he found himself powerless, caught in a system he couldn't control. The charges against him were numerous and irrefutable. His businesses, once his pride, were now just dust in the wind, destroyed by Alex's invisible hand. In court, Nathan faced a cold justice, with no chance for redemption. His face, once marked by arrogance, was now pale with despair. As he listened to the sentence, he knew his life as he knew it was over. The time in prison would be long and harsh, but not as much as knowing he had been outplayed by the man he had underestimated. While Alex started his new life far away, the news eventually reached him. The headlines spoke of Nathan's downfall, of Melissa's conviction, but it no longer stirred in him the same sense of fulfilled vengeance. He realized that, despite everything, revenge hadn't erased the pain, it had only turned it into something colder, emptier. He had done what needed to be done, but the victory was bitter. Alex, now in a small coastal town where no one knew him, tried to find a new direction. Solitude was his constant companion, but he accepted it as the price for his decisions. The first days he walked along the beach, feeling the salty wind on his face, trying to find some comfort in the vastness of the ocean. But the peace he sought remained elusive. One night, sitting on a rock overlooking the sea, Alex was struck by a deep reflection. He realized that revenge had consumed him, shaped him, and, in the end, left him without purpose. He wondered if he would ever find the peace he desired. But in that moment, a cold, hard truth became clear: there is no peace for those who have been touched by the darkness of revenge. He was doomed to carry the weight of his decisions forever. And so, as the sun set on the horizon, Alex understood that his life was now a solitary journey, without the illusion of redemption. He accepted that he had become what he most feared, a hollow man, consumed by his own quest for justice. The wind carried away his memories, but what remained was only silence. And in that silence, Alex understood that the true cost of revenge was the loss of himself. And with that realization, he stood up and walked back to his small coastal house. The future, as uncertain as the sea before him, would be lived day by day, without illusions, without hope of return. Alex had fulfilled his mission, but the price had been his own soul.